Welcome along to the latest edition of the Left Wing Back podcast. We are on site here at the beautiful Tyndall Room once more in the Talbot Hotel in Carlow. You can of course book it. Sarah Breslin will look after you there, the marketing manager. Talbot Fitness located 2 floors down as well. Fine state-of-the-art gym, swimming pool, sauna, jacuzzi, the whole works. You couldn't ask for better. So we're delighted that they've provided us with their hospitality for what is a very special episode, because the man just on my right hand side, of course, all our viewers will know, Mr. Conor Lawlor. Delighted to welcome to the podcast, Conor. How's tricks with you? You well?
Good, Kevin. Not too bad. Yourself?
Well, look at it. I'm starting to feel a little bit like RAP.ie here now, because I'm nearly doing obituaries the last few weeks, aren't I, with Jack Kavanagh and now on to yourself. But look, you decided to step away from inter-county. You gave multiple years of service, probably I think it's senior level from 2011 up until last year gone. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You flirted with both codes. You tried both at the same time, but I don't think there was any year where you didn't play one or the other, was there?
No, I think there was one year that I didn't play because I was in my final year of college, but I played college ball during the winter, and by the time the college was finished, it was February, March anyway, so you'd be coming into it straight back in the club anyway, so I was doing a pre-season with them. So there was one year where I decided not to play county, and what happened was I ended up playing college instead anyway, so. Yeah,
you just didn't like being idle, as you?
No.
Yeah. Well, look, now we are idle. Well, not quite. We thought you might be idle, but you've informed me off air that club stuff is already up and running. But before I come to that, I suppose, and I won't spend too much time on the club stuff because we're here to talk about your county career. It's that same age-old common question. How did you come to this decision to actually step away?
I suppose, like loads of different things. I suppose, if it was one thing, it'd be a massive bit of news or something like that. But when a load of little things start to add up, that's when you decide, right, maybe it is time to step away. Because injuries and even a family comes along and that becomes priority then as well, and it just happens that a couple of different things mean that right now it's time to step away, I think. Yeah,
so you're quite clear in your mind that this was the time. There was no element of doubt whatsoever, really.
No, my wife would joke at the end of every year. I might say, "Listen, I wonder will I retire this year?" And it became an ongoing joke with her at this stage. I'd say it at the end of the year, and the eyes would roll on her. But no, this time I knew. And I said to her, "This is it." And in fairness to her, she left it up to me every year.
Yeah.
But I did ask her advice on it every time. I said, "Listen, what do you think?" She always said, "Listen, it's up to you." But I always tried to get her to make her mind up, but she always told me it was my choice.
Batted it back, get you, 100%. I mean, there's a contrast, and everyone's own set of circumstances is going to be different. You talked to Jack Kavanagh, who was on our last episode, and you could tell there was still a hinge of doubt in Jack's mind about whether or not he was making the right decision, whereas you're crystal clear.
Yeah,
that's how it seems anyway.
Well, that's it. Even my last year there, I was injured for every team I played with, the 3 teams that I played with last year, the 2 clubs in the county. I was injured for a good lot of both of them. I was more injured than I wasn't injured, and then I was like, right, I can't just go straight back into a pre-season again, and all that. And it's been a long year, and it just felt right. It felt like the right time to just my body needs a break, and at 33, if your body needs a break, chances are you're not going to go back, kind of thing.
Well, look, it is kind of it's number one a sign of the times, but also it's quite scary that at that age, that's where it's at for most people now that they have made a decision to step away. Jack is obviously an exception. He got another few years out of it. Richard Cody is still going, but they really are exceptions. In that regard, it does seem that bracket now is in around, let's say, our age bracket. That's where lads are stopping now.
Yeah, that's it. You look at every sport, it's coming. The age gap is coming younger and younger because the games are all getting faster and faster. The demands of it are asking you to be stronger, be faster, be quicker. The body can only sort of do that for a certain amount of time. So as lads were back when I started, the gym was heavy. It was heavy. Your body can only do that for a certain amount of years before it's right. A younger lad coming along is going to be able to hit you, and all of a sudden your body is just this is a fair stronger body hitting you, like, you know, so but it is becoming a younger man's game, like, you know. And
and look, when, as you say, when you take family into account and having to be there and making odd appearances, as the fella said, like, it does come into the equation. But like, I guess that's the point, and we kind of touched upon it off air, where like there was a time where maybe the demands of an inter-county player weren't as great, and you were able to balance the two. We're not at that place now. We're not even there at club level.
No, like if you look at, like, you know, teams nowadays, they're training on the pitch 3-4 nights a week. Like, they're in the gym. They're expected to be in the gym doing either recovery or maintenance, or in this time of year build up work, like, you know, kind of thing. So you're expected to be out nearly 4 or 5 nights a week anyway, like, you know, doing something. You can't be sitting at home, like, you know, which means that, like, you know, if I'm gone to the gym, like, you know, you can't be putting my son Sam to bed, like, you know, or something like that, or like if you're playing London away, you're gone for the entire weekend. It's like, or for example, like the Tuesday he was born, I was able to take off that session, but that week's sessions. But the Sunday we were due to play Kerry in the first round of the McDonagh, and like I remember, like, you know, he was coming home on the Saturday and the team was going down on the Saturday, and I was like, I couldn't make it down with the team because he was only coming home. There wasn't a chance of me going down that day. Like, first night, I didn't want to leave my wife on her own the first night he's home. Like, you know, that's a fairly frightening experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
The two of us, never mind just on our own. So we, I got a lift down with Breach, you know, John Michael's sister, and she was the physio at the time, but she wasn't going down with the team the night before. She was going down the morning of. But I remember being picked up by her at like 7 o'clock Sunday morning to go down to play Kerry that day. Like, I tell you, I was living off coffees and the caffeine gels that day.
Yvonne Tracy's big for them.
Huh?
She's big for them caffeine gels.
Yeah, in fairness to her, but she was very good. Like, she always had us, like, you know, individually on plans and all that, like, you know, she's very good like that, like, and that's the way it's gone as well. Like, you know, back when I was starting, there was none of that. Like, you know, everyone was like, you know, you need to eat well, like, and all that, like, but you were never told exactly what to eat. It wasn't tailored to you specifically. To the individual. Like, now we were all being weighed, and we were all setting goals with her and all that, going, right, I want to lose a certain amount of weight, or I want to put on a certain amount of weight, or I want to like, you know, maintain what I've got, and like, you know, that's the way it's gone now, like, you know, in there.
Mad stuff. And like that thing with Sam being born and going to play the game, I mean, like, even at that particular stage, I'm sure, like, you can have all the blessings in the world, but there's probably still a bit of guilt in the back of your mind too, isn't there? And anxiety and all these things, like.
Well, that's it. Guilt. Like, if you don't go, you're feeling guilt because you're letting the team down. If you go, you're letting you feel like you might miss something at home or something like that. You're worried because, like I said, it would have been his first morning there and all that, like, you know, and everything. Now I was able to help with like night feeds and all that night, like, you know, but like I said, I was working off of about 2 hours sleep, and
whenever you got back up the road that night, it must have been interesting. Like, you'd be tired, like, you know.
That's it. But even when you get home, you can't rest because you're back in the family life, like, you know, like, you know. So
but it's crazy that, like, I mean, so you done, we'll say, 2 seasons then when you stepped into fatherhood, right? And you know, I'm sure all the experts in there, I'm not trying to be disingenuous by saying that, but everyone out there that gives a damn about county hurling, that goes down the route of the non-negotiables: recovery, train hard, sleep. And that's where I'm stopping here now. Like, it's obviously not possible to get the right amount of sleep. So how do you work around that? Like, I mean, is that something that you and Grace really have to manage at home? Or did you just survive on your few hours? Like
in fairness to Grace, she was good like that. Like, you know, she was supportive of me still playing. Like, cause I was saying at the start of the year, I was like, right, I knew, like, we obviously knew, like, you know, being born in April, we knew back in September, whenever it was, that he was going to be born, like, and we were like, right, do I go in for it this year or not, like, you know, kind of thing. And it was the kind of thing that I was like, you know, if I go in, I'm committed, like, even when he comes along, I'm committed to that, like, because the McDonagh was in April, like, you know, and that's the way it was, like, you know, so I knew he was going to be born roughly when we were starting our championship time. So I was like, if I go in, I'm not dropping out mid-season, like, you know, I don't believe in that, like, you know, kind of thing, like, you know, I don't believe in doing something like that. If you're in, you're in, even if you don't get what you want out of it, if you're not getting game time, you're still in, you should, like, you know, but.
I'd say you were glad you went down to Kerry instead waited when May came around anyway.
Yeah, that was
Offaly, Crow Park.
That's it, like, that's probably that's the pinnacle of my career, I think, like, you know, because if you imagine, like, if if I had stayed with like, you know, the hurling all along, it would have been a case I would have had like, you know, the other McDonagh, the Christie Rings, like you would have had other tournaments there that you've won. If you stay with the footballers all the time, you're retiring on a back of a 14-year run there where you don't have
no silverware, like.
No, you don't have any. Like I have a picture at home, like, you know, it's on a display. It's like, you know, my wife got it for me, and it's me lifting up the cup in Crow Park, like, you know.
Yeah.
There's not many, like, you know, not many players from Carlow can show
that. Do that, like, yeah.
No, like, you know, it's only the lads who have been on the years that, like I said, have won of Christie Ring and won the Joe McDonagh. The other Joe McDonaghs have it fair enough as well, but think of all the footballers that have come and gone, haven't won anything, like.
Yeah. And look, we might come to that particular day a little bit more later on, but you touched on something very important there. There was I'd say a mad series of unfortunate events whereby the football years weren't too shabby around 17, 18, and things were starting to come right in 16, like, but that's like 17 and 18, there was 2 trophies there, wasn't there, for the hurlers, like so Christie Ring and the Joe Mac, and there was a league title or 2 in there as well, actually. And you had great days, obviously, as a Carlow footballer then as well in around that time.
Yeah.
and like, so how do you weigh it all up, I guess? I mean, you have one of the greatest moments in Carlow football history to your name by wrapping up the victory over Kildare. Like, I mean, how you got into that position isn't mad to this day. So that moment is obviously another thing we might touch on. But like, how does that play out in your mind now with reflection, now that you've stepped away? The decisions you made back then. I mean, do you have regrets, or are you happy with the ones you did make?
No, because like if you regret things like that in the past, they mightn't have made you the player that you became later on, like, you know. So me stepping from one to the other, back to the other, back to the other, it made me hungry for the games, like, you know. It made me hungry, like when I stepped away from the footballers and went with the hurlers, it made me hungry, like, you know, after a couple of years, you're nearly like, you're hungry for the footballers again, like, you know, kind of thing.
Yes, you're missing the other code kind of a thing as well, like,
yeah.
Whenever you swap over, like, is that what you're saying?
Now, like, people have always asked me, like, my preference, like, you know, kind of thing, like what my preference was, and like I'd always say, my father never played football. I never came. My mother and father from Kilkenny as well.
Yeah.
I only started playing football, like, you know, like even up in Dublin, I played, like, you know, hurling before I played football. Like, I was born with a hurling in my hand nearly, that kind of thing, like, you know. But it was only when, like, you know, I started making the under-21 team for Carlow in the football that, like, you know, I started. Like, but back to your question, sorry, the reflection.
No, you're A1. Like, we're going to all these places anyway.
That's it, yeah. But the reflection kind of thing, like, you know, like I said to you, I would have no regrets in relation to it, because it sort of made me the player I was later on in my career. Like, you know, everything was sort of contributing to that. Like, you know, the heartaches, the down days made you hungry for the good days.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Makes perfect sense. And look, I always knew you as a hurling man as well.
Played minor county together, sure.
We did, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Just that was a mad old year, wasn't it? But I'd like to talk to you about the Dublin aspect, because it's not something I recall has been spoken about too much, maybe in media circles. So, at what point do you move down to Carlow then? And what was your club in Dublin actually?
Club in Dublin was St Mark's, actually. St Mark's in Dublin, yeah.
Is that Tala?
Yeah. Tala, yeah. So we moved down when I was about 12. I finished out primary school up there, because we moved down in about May, and it was mid-season in the GAA season, so I actually transferred to PAL. I transferred to Carrolltown first mid-season. I didn't join PAL until the start of the next season, so I came down and started playing my hurling straight away with Carlow, and we hadn't joined a football club, and 2 of the football clubs actually showed up to the house, because 3 boys coming to the neighbourhood, like, you know, we were actually slap bang in the middle between Grange and Pal. Yeah. And Grange showed up to the house and Pal showed up to the house asking us to go, like, and all that. But
in demand.
Well, that's it. But what happened? Like, if you imagine 3 young boys coming to the
the same age, like, as well.
Myself and my 2 brothers, like, you know, like, it would have been major for Grange to get 3 new players in, like, you know, young players.
So you're, just to jump in there, so 12 or 13, 11 and 10 probably at this stage? Yeah. Ready to go, like.
That's it, like, you know, and we were playing already, like, you know, we were training up in Dublin, like, it's not as if we were 3 young lads that were just going to start playing our football or hurling, like, you know, because I remember going to games, like, you know, my dad played hurling for St Mark's and played for Dublin as well, actually, And I remember going to his games and all that, like, you know, and everything like that. So it was always a great buzz around going to GAA, like, and we sort of kept that going, like, you know.
Yeah, it's ingrained from an early age. But I suppose to have a hurling preference in Dublin at that particular time, albeit with Kilkenny parents, like, you were probably somewhat of a trailblazer because it wasn't particularly strong, I'd say, when you were growing up.
No, because I remember when, especially underage up in Dublin at the time, when we left, I presume they've changed it now, but it used to be Dublin hurling was in winter, the underage. So you'd play winter hurling in Dublin, and you'd play the football then in summer. So you'd always have GAA. So you never had to, like, you know, that was their way of sort of keeping away, like, they always talk about how the population of Dublin, but if you imagine, they have so much different sports to choose from. Yeah. So that's why they played Dublin hurling in winter, because they wanted to keep them away from soccer and rugby and all that kind of thing. So you had GAA the whole time. You finished your hurling season in winter and you went straight into football season then as well. And the dual club, like, you know, it was handy for them. They just kept the young lads going.
And was it just GAA for you up there at that stage? You didn't anything else?
No, I didn't. No, like, we were.
Because up there, so you have everything on your doorstep. Like,
well, that's it. Like, we were swimming as well. Like, we were, like, I was a part of a swim team in Balrodry there for a while as well. So, like, you know, that sort of, like, you know, helped you get strong as well. Like, you know, things. So, yeah, no, we didn't venture into anything else. Like, in Dublin are pretty good for, back then they were pretty good for teaching you different things in schools. Like, we went badminton and everything, like, you know, which probably helped the flick of the wrist and all that. Like, no, so.
Oh, geez, it wouldn't do any harm on you, Stu.
No.
I suppose coming down then, like, the first few years of Carlow Town probably weren't fruitful in terms of winning stuff or anything like that. But, like, I mean, it's all about enjoyment to an extent at that age, but you do want to win.
Well, that's it, yeah.
But then, like, pardon me now, I could be skipping over a few bits, but, like, you did all right with Pal picking up a 16s A title anyway over Bidnestown, I think, after a replay. Would that be right, I think?
They were that was the year after me, I think.
Was it?
Yeah.
07 under 16. I don't know if you were knocking around or not at the time, but yeah, definitely I think it went to a replay. But sure, then 2 years after that, you won the minor titles then.
Yeah. With football, sorry.
Football,
football, yeah, we did. We won the under 16 against Bidnestown, and then the year after, it was my week year minor, and we were nearly, like, you know, 4 of the lads were going to be overage next year, so we were like, right, we'll put in a good season here, like,
build for the year after.
Because we had lost to, I think we had lost to the Blues the first day, and back then it was knockout championship and it was backdoor and all that, like, so
that was a great championship. I still talk about it. It was the best minor championship I've ever seen in Carlow.
Fantastic, like,
in terms of the structure.
Yeah, like a fantastic championship structure, like, you know, that, like, you know, it knockout, you had one chance to lose, and then if you lost the second game, you're gone, like, you know.
Yeah, going to the B championship then.
Like, you know, like it's the kind of thing that we were actually going. We'd lost to the Blues, and we got fairly ate now after the game by one of our managers. But we were going to play Rangers in Bidnestown, and I remember that the players had a meeting before the game, going, will we just lose and go into the B and try win a B, and next year concentrate in the A? And I think the 4, like, one of Darren Reid was one of the older lads. He stood up and says, lads, I don't want to hear that anymore, kind of thing. Like, no, we are not going down here to purposely lose a game. Like, we're going down here to beat these lads and go for it. Like, you know, so lucky enough we did go for it.
It's probably Darren Reid, Brian Parker, Dixie Keogh. I can't think of the 4th one. I reckon that's
Casey.
Emma Casey. Everyone else then is eligible. That's mad, isn't it? Yeah. The way the whole thing worked out. Well, like, yeah, it was mad as us that year. Like, Clonmore got to an SME final. They beat us in the quarter. Obviously, it was yourselves and Éireog, I think, in that minor final. But it gave those opportunities, because ourselves and Clonmore played the
Tinryland were supposed to be good that year as well.
That's correct, yeah.
Tinryland were supposed to be the team that, like, you know, but Éireog beat them, and no one was expecting Éireog to beat them.
Yeah.
And then no one expected us to beat Éireog.
That Tinryland team was actually the failing winning team.
Yeah.
Now, like, obviously, I know Donny Kingston had kind of moved on at that particular point, but what they had left there was still, like, they were a serious side.
Yeah.
Really, really good side. Like, so yeah, that was an unbelievable. Yeah, I still think very fondly of that. I don't think too fondly of the 2009 minor hurling championship, the way that kind of ended for us. and obviously you won the football. I don't want to be taking that away from you, and like that's a big one against Tinryland to win that too, because, you know, as we said, a lot of them did move on. Their failed team was there no more, but there was like a few knocking about that were decent players. Your Muzzies, Paul Costello was a great bit of stuff.
Robbie Power.
Robbie Power, there's an name.
I remember I was centre back marking Robbie Power.
Half the size of you.
I used to joke that I'd have to have my hands down at my knees to try tackle him, like, you know, because but like he'd always he kind of reminded me of Jamie Kenny, like, you know, him and Jamie Kenny were very similar, like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, low to the ground, agile, like, you know, good players, like, you know.
Yeah, just he stopped after 21s, I think. He got a couple of bad knee injuries, didn't he, Robbie Power? Yeah. He played county 21s with you, I think.
He did, yeah. There was a few players from, like, that I would have played county 21s with that, like, you know, stopped playing, like, you know.
Yeah, I think he got 600 points that year too in the leaving, didn't he? In around that time, Robbie Power, like, very smart gent, unbelievable. Yeah. Mikey Byrne is another one on that Ryan team, but like, yeah, he had the experience the year before, like, to win 2 minor titles back to back is serious going for. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, especially, like, you know, when it does take effort still at that age to win it, like, you know, but, like, you know, we were lucky enough that we only had 4 lads over age. Like, you know, we were carrying nearly the entire team back in, like, you know, kind of thing. Now, fair enough, you're missing lads like Darren, like you said there, Brian Parker, the serious players, like, you know, Emma Casey as well, like, you know, so these are serious players to be missing, but at the same time, like, you know, we had players like to come into the team, or lads who were starting to develop, like, you know, like, I went from being a wing back to centre back that year, like, and I think Adam Kavanagh moved out to midfield or something like that.
That's right, serious baller as well.
Yeah.
Don't know if he played much after minor, did he?
No, he didn't, no.
He was class act, like, hard he is.
He was, yeah.
And he was like in Dublin as well, wasn't he? Did he come up from Dublin?
Yeah, he came.
Paul did alright with Dublin, didn't he?
They did,
at that time.
Well, he actually came from, because Grange disbanded, he came from Grange.
Right, so he was over there first.
Yeah, he wasn't with us our first year. The first year we won it, he wasn't with us. He was with us the second year.
Jenny, that's mad. How did your 2 brothers end up with Grange then? Were they with Pal for a while and then moved?
Yeah, so like I think
Cormac and Brian.
Yeah, after under 21 they sort of switched over, like, you know, so they sort
that was their choice.
They didn't feel they wanted to play as serious.
Okay.
Like, you know, so, like, you know,
they were happy enough to.
They were happy enough to maybe suit in the second team in Grange here, but, like, you know, Cormac and like Brian had knee issues, and Cormac just his appetite for the game just dwindled. So
yeah, I get you. Yeah.
So
Brian had massive strides when he took off.
Yeah.
No different to yourself. It was hard to catch there, but
yeah, he had the ability to be probably better than the two, like myself, like, because he's left-footed, but he kicks very well with his right, so he's able to play ball right and left. Like,
big man as well. Big man.
He played basketball for a while as well, but he never really took the GAA seriously.
Well, I'm going to have to bring this up. There was a box of tissues over there. I might need them now as well. But honestly, I remember after that minor quarter final that when Carlow beat us, like, we were heartbroken. It was 116-7. I think we beat you by 5 or 6 points in the group stage, and like nobody gave Carlow a chance. And like, it wasn't that we went in cock of the walk expecting to win either. We knew it's always been a battle with Carlow, like, even at 16s and 14s and the whole lot. But Jesus, they really pulled the rug from under our feet. But if there's any consolation to be got out of that whole thing, it was the Binders boys that we were in school with up on the bank looking in at us and jeering us after in the next few days after that. And what happened the following week? You went down to Kildare and bet them in the semi-final. And we were on the bank. And we were fucking cheering. But the only one really winning out of it was Carlow. And like, they were, like, I mean, and not to be big and say our side up, but we've been to every A semi-final, lost out in a replay in 14s by a point, lost out by a point or two by Ballinkillen in 16s. And like, you know, we were expected to do really well that year, as were Bidnestown. And he came from fucking nowhere. Yeah. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, because like I was unfortunate with, like, you know, we were talking about there, the football, I was like, the 4 lads carried over. We were unfortunate that, like, you know, I was one of the 4 from the, like, you know, the hurling stage was like that. Like, on my strong year, it would have been our weaker year, like, you know, kind of thing.
Gotcha,
like, you know, we were losing only 3 or 4, like, from that year to go. So the year we made it to the county final, there was huge expectation on those lads when I moved up to adult to win a minor, like, you know, and never came to fruition either. Like, but that year was like, to get to 2 county finals was exceptional. As a young lad, like in 6th year, like, you know, you're going around going 2 county finals, like, you know, in fairness, like, you know, to win one of them was great, like, you know, but to get there in the hurling, like you said, when no one was giving us a chance, was
rare.
Like, to win. I remember the game down, and I remember actually we got Shane Keogh sent off against Ye, like,
early on,
yeah, because he for some reason he thought his hand was stronger than the face guard of a helmet. So
I can still see him doing it.
But he was punching a face guard, and you're like, you're not damaging anyone there, doing anything. Your man have to play on. So,
and you know what was gas? Like, there's this kind of saying that refs will always try to even it up, right? And I don't know how true or false that statement is. Well, I remember Kieran Nolan pulled. Mistimed, he went to pull on the ground, mistimed, and he got straight red a few minutes after.
Yeah.
We were thinking, right, we're in a good position, we made a good start, extra man, and then Nolan got the road. Great hurler, by the way.
Went to school with Kieran.
The amount of lads that we lost off of that, I think only like 3 years later, there's only 2 lads playing off a team that was capable of winning championships year on. Like, it was.
We were similar enough, like, you know, in Carltown, like, you know, we didn't, like, I think it's this side of the county, predominantly football, like, you know, kind of thing, like, that's the way it went, like, you know, the football was calling too much, like, you know, there's, like, if you look at it, there's not a lot of, like, I'm playing with Carltown now, and if you look at it, like, that team that made it to the final, you had PAL players, you had, like, you know, Tinryland players, you had Rathvilly players even. I don't think there's any Rathvilly players playing hurling, adult hurling at the minute, like, you know, with us, like, anyway. Yeah,
the catchment you had was extraordinary, and look, while, like, you had a few really good stickmen, proper stickmen, but the guys that weren't maybe in that mould were serious grafters, like, they'd stand down on top of you. I don't know how many clashes I had with David Kenny down through the years. and like, I never really got to have a proper conversation with him until, it's funny, but this time last year I met him at randomly enough, a whiskey tasting thing that his brother has an involvement in, and I drank whiskey with him for the whole night, and we talked about all them times. I would declare him as arch nemesis, like, the whole way up along. We clashed in every game, whether it was Aero Davits or Nave Breed and Carlow. But like, he would put in a shift, and like, if it meant stopping you hurling, he was very good at it. And you know, a vital cog in the wheel there. Heno could hurl as well, in fairness. Like, John Doyle went off to play with O'Loughlin Gales. Keane O'Brien, another good stick man. Shame he was probably in full forward. Like, you had a bit of everything. Like,
that's it. Like, we had a good team there, like, good mix. Like, you know, you had the big full forward, the big full back, and then you had the agile lads out around them, like, you know, kind of thing. Like, you know, so.
Yeah, pity didn't get the win. It was a 9. It was a, like, low scoring, wasn't it?
Really low scoring. Yeah.
9-6 or 9-5 or something
like that.
Mental.
Yeah. As a defensive unit, I was delighted, but, like, you know, you're sort of like, and we missed a penalty as well, I think, and everything that day, like, you know.
Yeah, it's funny. I met Keneally over in Salute the day he won the Joe McDonagh. Like, I didn't realise he was going to be there at all. Actually, we enjoyed that one together. I think we got mentioned on the last pod actually with Jack Kavanagh as well. That's who I was talking about anyway, even if I didn't say his name. And he said to this day. And sorry now for kind of putting this out there in the public domain, people, but it was hilarious. He'd an odd time ring up Keane O'Brien still about that penalty and tell him he cost him a minor title, which, like, I'm sure Keane isn't too happy with. Like, I mean, obviously that's something that will stick with you, but I think the boys do it.
Listen,
you only wind them up, like,
that's
you know what
I mean? Like, I'd never put a.
Cost me a minor title.
That's it. But I'd never blame a lad like that. Like, you know, I'd never.
I know, sure.
Couldn't, like, you know, you'd drive him over, you'd slag him over, but, like, you know, but that's about it. Yeah.
Everyone gets slagged over something, of course, you know.
That's it.
Like, in the years after that, then, so, like, you know, obviously. You go and play underage county hurling, but county football is on the horizon then. 2011, I would say, for both, was it? Or did you have a year in 2010 when you were with the Hurlers?
No, 2010, sure, I was doing my leaving cert in 2010.
Yeah, so that was, right.
Yeah, I was playing minor, I think, and then I didn't play anything. I didn't play anything the year after, county-wise, like, because it was my first year under 21. Back then it was under 21. Yeah. And I played bit of junior football for PAL and senior hurling for Carltown, and it was after that then I was called into the under 21s then, like my second year under 21 I was called into the county under 21s then, and
it took
off like, because like I said, I only played junior the year before for PAL, and what happened was I made straight the under 21 team, and then that spring I made the county senior team. So
I was going to say, like, when I started off, I wouldn't have thought a few months later you thought you'd be maybe in Croke Park against Wexford in Leinster semi-final playing full back.
That's
at
it.
19 or 20 years of age, like.
That's it, yeah. Because like I said, I was new to this whole county thing at that stage, and the rule was that you couldn't play 2 weeks in advance, and we played Loud. I think we played Loud, and what happened was. My father was over the club hurlers at the time, and we were in a Kilkenny League final, and we had a chance to win silverware for the club, like, you know. And the Sunday we played Louth, that Sunday we were due to play the league final as well in Kilkenny, and my father was like, you know, is there any chance you play the hurling? I was like, I was just after playing against Louth, like, you know, and all that, like, you know, any chance you play the hurling, like, you know. And I was like, I don't know, the 2 week ban is there. 2 week ban doesn't come into force till tomorrow. So I went, but I'd done my AC joint.
Oh Jesus!
So I was heavily strapped for the Wexford game in Croke Park.
Never knew that. You kept that fairly quiet.
I was heavily strapped for it, like, you know. I'd done my AC. I hadn't trained for nearly for the 2 weeks leading up to the Wexford game.
Jeepers! Just had no knowledge of that whatsoever. I'm sure maybe that's a good thing that you were able to keep everything quiet at that particular.
That's it, like, you know.
Were you cursing your old lad much, or?
No, because he promised Luke Dempsey back then. He said, I won't start him, and I think he brought me on after about 15 minutes, and after about 5 minutes I hadn't passed the ball off, and some lad decided to hit me a very late one, like, you know. And you think it's your collarbone, because with the AC joint you hear a crunch.
Yeah, it's a horrible one.
Horrible. Like, the only thing is I've done 2 of them, so both shoulders have a lump there, like, you know. So it's symmetrical.
Yeah, Jesus, it's a dirty one. I remember doing it one day as well. I was just trying to, while I was my own full back, you'll know this one, just went to tomahawk with one hand. I went out over your man's shoulder, and just that sudden impact kind of, yeah, it's not a nice one, Jesus. But the fact that you got to play the game still is, well, I suppose, in pain. I said there was a lot of painkillers and stuff, wasn't there?
Yeah. I never got injections. It's one thing I've lived my career on, like, is never get injections. Like, you know, natural painkillers. Like, pain is a sign for you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
You've got to stop doing it. Like, if you get an injection, you could be doing like that could have been, if I got an injection, I did something worse and it continued on and all that.
Career over.
You know. So I've never been an advocate of getting an injection. If, like, you know, if you're out, you're out. If you're able to, you're able to. Like, you know. So lucky enough, I was able to.
Magical day against Louth, like, really good day, and a magical start to the game against Wexford, and then it just, I don't know what happened. Do you know what happened that day? Or?
We picked out a couple of players that, like, you know, they were that they had, like, you know, star players for them that we were going to mark and what we were going to do, like, you know, and we just never kept our eye on the other lads. Like, the other lads are the ones.
I think about Kieran Ling, and
I was marking Kieran Ling that day, like, you know, and
fairness, Shane Roche steps up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, you know, listen, teams like that, like, you know, that was a good Wexford team, like, you know.
It was a really good Wexford. They should have won Leinster, really.
But the thing with good teams is that's what happens, like, you know. You mark the 3 or 4 talismans or the known players. It's up to the other players to step up, and I think that's what they've done. Like, they sort of nearly said, right, these lads are being marked, their talismans are being marked, right, let's just pull those out, because that's their best backs, obviously, like, being marking them, so let's just pull them out of position, like, you know, and leave space for the other lads. What
was it like going to mark Kieran Ling? Like, Kieran Ling was, like, arguably one of the top 5 best forwards at the time, definitely in the top 5. So what was it like for you going in as a chap in to mark him, like, in your mind? You never struck me as a lad who gave a shit who you were marking.
No, I didn't know Kieran Ling was who he was at the time. I was just
a lad with the garage across the road here.
You know, so, like, you know, so if he walked by me in the street, I wouldn't have known him. Like, you know, I've never been like, you know, oh, you're marking this lad. No, jeez, how am I going to mark him? Like, it never came across me. Like, you know, it was more so, like, you know, right, I'm going to do a job on him. Like, you know, like, you know, I'm going to. If he's left-footed, he's left-footed. If he's right, he's right. Or
he did all right in him from memory.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah. He did. I kept him to, I think, 1 or 2 points from play, like, you know, kind of thing. So
you'd take that at the time, wouldn't you?
You know, so, like, in fairness, like, you know, it's never something I've ever worried myself about. Like, if I've been told you're marking that lad, like, I've marked the likes of Conor McManus. I've marked what's his name, McMenamin from Dublin.
Yes,
like, you know,
yes.
And then hurlers, I've marked Conor McDonagh from Wexford. I've marked Blanchfield from Kilkenny. Like, I've marked these lads already. Like, you know, like, you know, that, like, you know, you're going into it going, now, there is an air of respect about it. Like, you know, I do respect if I do step off him, I do stop off my game. I need to be on my pinnacle for this, like, you know, kind of thing. And so, but, like, in regards to it, like, you know, I never was one for shying away from it. Like, you know.
Yeah, bring it on more so.
Yeah,
that's a great way to be. Did you do well? I know that lost over the 21 semi-final against Wexford. Like, that was a great 21s team you had as well.
Yeah.
And a disappointing one to come up short. And I remember on Dara Foley's episode, I can't remember. I feel like it was Wexford that won the final against Longford.
Yeah. Wexford won it. Yeah. Wexford Leinster Challenge. That was the bit that hit us hard the most. Was it wouldn't have been so bad if they went and they had lost the final by
Yeah.
like, you know, 9-10 points. You're like, right, we were a good bit off, like, you know, like against Wexford, you beat Wexford, that could have been us kind of thing, like,
Yeah,
you know.
they were there for the taking. It was a penalty, wasn't it, decided, I think.
And Wexford, like, you know, like Wexford winning the Leinster Championship meant that was our chance for a Leinster Championship.
Hey, listen, he's one of my best friends. I better give him a shout out. How annoying was it to have to play in front of Barry Dial?
Barry was a sound old devil, in fairness. Yeah.
He was in goal for that year, wasn't he? For 21s.
Yeah. I know Barry was sound, like, you know. I think he's big into horse racing now, I think, or something.
Massive Champ.ie podcast. Check it out on YouTube. Yeah, he's Ireland's premier horse racing podcast. He's flouting with that at the minute, and he's always been mad into it. But geez, he was obsessed with the 21s football that year. Like, it was all he focused on.
But that's why we were.
Ate, slept, and drank.
That's why we were going so well. Because lads bought into it, like, you know.
Yeah.
And Luke Dempsey was over us at the time, like, you know. And I think that's a good system to have, where you had part of the senior, like the senior manager was under 21 back then. But if you had some sort of overlap, it meant that, like, you know, lads were carrying in.
Yeah.
Like, lads could get looked at as well, but it also brought a bit of professionalism to it as well, like, you know. And the team, that was a great team, like, you know. I remember because I was on my second year, and I was sort of, there was two other full-backs in the team as well, like, you know. Conor Byrne was in, and Michael Meany from Michael Meany. Like, there was two other full-backs to compete with there, and that sort of any slip up for myself meant that one of them was in, like, you know. So it drove me on, like, you know, to be the best player I could be, like, at the time.
Yeah. Class guys in that team, in fairness, really good. And when was the first year you started attempted to play dual?
I played dual under John Myler and Anthony Rainbow. It was my last year, the year after, my last year under 21. Because I played under 21 for both, and I played senior for both as well that year, while also playing college. So it was a busy year that year, all right, yeah. But
even at that particular point, that's got to be difficult to try to do, like.
Yeah, like, in fairness to John Myler, he was brilliant, like, at it, like, because, like, I don't know whether it was having his son play soccer in the UK, and, like, you know, he was very understanding of, like, you know, listen, you're trying to play a couple of different two sports here, like, trying to amalgamate the two at the same time. I think Anthony Rainbow wasn't as forgiving, like,
right.
You know,
no, you wanted to.
I remember getting off the bus at one stage from a football match, and myself and Barry Lamb were playing under 21 together, both. And also Barry was playing senior football, and then he comes up to us and said, "Listen, lads, give up the hurling. Don't even play the under 21, like, you know, kind of thing." Like, he wanted me to give up hurling, like, and concentrate on the football. And I sort of said to myself, like, it was like, if I'm going to give up one, I'm going to give up the football, like, you know, kind of thing. But
and you said that to him?
No. But, like, it was the kind of thing I said, right, I'm in both squads, like, you know. I'm, like I said to you, I'm not someone that gives up mid-season, like, you know. So if it's a case that a manager want to get rid of me, get rid of me. But if you want to keep me, you have to keep me as I'm committed, like, at the minute, like, you know. So
Jesus.
That was my attitude. My attitude was, I'm committed to both teams. I've got a good thing going here where I'm able to train once a week at least with G, like, you know, kind of thing. When it was a hurling championship match, it was grand, like, you know. I was able to train 2 nights with the hurling and maybe show up to the footballers, but back then there was no FNSE, so it wasn't as easy to train, like, you know.
Hey, come here. Seeing as I brought up in Dara Foley's episode, how did you find your boxing career during that period?
Yeah, I remember playing Ledger actually on that, I think it was, yeah. That was surreal. What was it, 1920 boxing against Daniel St. Ledger. So, but it was interesting, but it was a great fun event, like, you know, kind of thing. Like, that was my first year of pre-season, and we were doing boxing training and all that, like, you know. That was great crack, like, you know.
Yeah.
But it was
no quarter given or asked.
No. I think 3 rounds. I think we Ledger won the first 2, and I got him counted in the third. But sure, when you win 2 out of 3, like, you know, he's going to win the fight. But
I said this to Dara, someone surely has a video of that somewhere. It has to have happened.
Whatever about us, I think the main event was Brendan versus John Murphy. Brendan Murphy versus John Murphy. That was the big one. That was the main event of the night. Like, you know, everyone was gearing up for that.
And what do you call it? Brian Murphy and Derek Hayden was a great one as well. Like, they were just technically very good. Yeah. Without them, like, you know. Yeah. That was class. It was mad novelty. It wouldn't happen now.
No, that's the thing, like, you know.
I don't think it would, yeah.
But, like, you might get, like, I remember, like, it was a lot popular back then. Nowadays you wouldn't hear it as much.
No, in terms of fundraiser, no, you might have your Strictly or your Chase or something like that, kind of a thing, lip syncs and all this stuff. But No, it seems to be kind of gone. I wouldn't mind seeing another one, to be honest. It'd be cool.
Good crack.
But so yeah, we'll get back to it then. So you just went full on football then in 13-14, was it? Or at what point did you just go?
I think when I can't remember when I switched over.
You went back with Pat English, didn't you?
Yeah,
that's when you went back to hurling. So you must have done.
I did a stint of football on its own then as well, but
and they weren't great years from memory.
No, the sort of years with, I think
tough.
Turlow's first stint, or came in as a sort of, Turlow was starting to come in
with Rainbow.
Yeah. Kind of thing, and it was tough years then, kind of thing. We were bottom Division 4, weren't winning championship games, either,
and you went with Pat at a time where he struggled to get buy-in, and that was a great pity. He was after doing great stuff for 21s, beating Dublin, and
I think there was splits in the clubs back then.
Rangers and Michael at
I think there was
Barney,
a big fight in the stand and everything the previous year.
The semi-final, wasn't it? 4 sent off, was there, I think, from Michael perhaps? It was a load of lads sent off.
There was a bad fight, and everything, and certain lads, broke apart, in the county scene. I remember Pat English called me, and we were going down to play. Was we going to play Meath in a pre-season Walsh Cup game or something like that? Anyway, and we had only 18 players. I remember Jack Barron was our sub goalkeeper. He came on outfield because we had we had so much. We had lads injured in the game that we had to bring him on outfield. He was our sub keeper and we were bringing him on outfield. So it was one of the tough years. All right, there. Pat. I always felt Pat got a raw deal there because he was taking a senior team that was sort of the senior setup, at that stage wasn't, lads were fighting with each other.
It wasn't a happy camp.
Club players weren't committing to the county team because they didn't want to play with certain lads, so.
Yeah.
When
you've that going on, you're not hiding to nothing.
Well, that's it, and that's probably why, I always got on better with the hurlers than I did with footballers because I didn't used to play against them in club championship.
Yeah, the fallout was probably reduced somewhat.
There was no club animosity there, whereas in the football, there's always that in the back of the head. There's always going to be that in the back of the head that this lad bit me in the championship, or this lad did this to me, or this lad hit me off the ball, or I remember one player, club player, I played county football with him after, and I actually worked with him for a while as well. But in a club game, he actually fish hooked me. Yeah, so that wasn't nice. But when you have to show up to work then, a couple of years later, and there he is, you're like, sound.
You're not going to tell us who it is, are you?
No.
Yeah, well, sure, mad stuff it does mad things to people as well, you know what I mean?
That's it. Once you carry it over the line, there's certain things I would carry over the line, but other things, it's all part of the game. It's all part of the game. If you look at any game, doing stuff to win the game is what you do, kind of thing. So
at times it probably got out of hand from a sledging point of view, certainly. And I don't know, you hear there was horrible stuff coming from the Monaghan game in particular that I had heard. I don't know if half of it was true or not, but if half of what I heard and half of that was true, it was bad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, whatever play when we had Stephen Poacher was a great coach and all that with us, but he brought a sort of an air of northern football to us, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And playing the lads from the north, he sort of had the bit between his teeth for that, kind of thing, and he had us ready, both mentally and what to do to them mentally as well, and you're relieved that you're not playing in the north then because if that's what's going on the whole time, you're because I remember going up to play Tyrone in a challenge game, and Poacher was over still at the time, and I remember we were on our way to the pitch and I was sitting near the front of the bus. All of a sudden we got a phone call saying the venue has changed, we're going to here instead. Apparently what happened was the word had got out up there that Tyrone were playing the challenge game and they were going to it was in a club pitch that could be easily accessible.
Right.
Changed it to the centre of excellence then. But I remember getting the bus pulled up and to the gate, and the guy was standing at the gate, it was closed gate, and big long driveway, you can't see it from the road, it's all secretive,
Jeepers.
And I remember, it was lad, bus driver let down the window, and lads, what are you here for? A challenge game. Who are you? Have anything to show that,
Jesus.
County board representative have to go down and tell him, all that, real secretive,
Border patrol,
for a challenge game,
yeah.
So it was like that, like, you know, it was very much like, you know,
Fairly
see
intense.
up there, like, you know, whereas down here, like, you know, you could be playing a challenge game and then spectators just come in and watch, like,
Yeah,
you know,
the more people you can get to them, the better, like.
Yeah.
They're trying to get less people to them. Jesus. It's mad. I don't know if the old sledging stuff is something that you kind of participated in, but I mean, I'd imagine it's something that maybe a lot of people wouldn't be overly comfortable in. Like,
no, I don't believe in
mean?
that kind of thing, because like I said, the stuff that I leave on the pitch is like, you know, that tends to be the physical stuff. Like,
Yeah,
the stuff
yeah,
that,
I wouldn't thought,
it's
yeah.
all part of, like, lad can get sparked to the head and just, like, you know, do something, like, you
Yeah,
know,
and that happens.
that-
And premeditated, I don't like that personally.
No, or if you get too personal with sledging, like I've been on the receiving end of sledging that's gone too far, like, you know, as well. That,
Yeah.
like, you know, it's not nice, like, you
No,
know, kind of thing.
it's not necessary either.
But it's not something that referees are clamping down on either, because you'd be called something with a referee in front of you, and if you said that to the referee, you'd be shown a red. Whereas a player can say it to you, he can call you anything under the sun, and referees will look away.
Yeah,
Like,
just turn
it's
around
not
and do it.
it's not in camera, so they can't, like, you know, they can't say anything. So
Mad. Yeah, another aspect of it, like, that has to be looked at, of course. Look, I know they have a lot on their hands out at the minute, but it's, yeah, as I said, look, I did hear things coming from that particular game, and I didn't like. I don't mean that Carlow players were doing it against Monaghan, but maybe it was reciprocated the other way.
Yeah.
Not nice. But anyway, look, we don't want to dwell too much on that either. But so at 2017, you went back with the footballers. You finished up with Pat in 16, and then there's obviously maybe a choice. Thurlow's ringing. I imagine Colin Bonner's ringing.
no, Bonner never rang. That's probably why I went into the footballers, because
You weren't as back to the hurling.
No, I wasn't that back
Jesus.
into the hurling, because I was the hurling sort of just.
That died a death for 2 years.
I never sort of got a call, like, you know, and never got a sort of we're back training kind of thing or anything like that. So footballers came knocking that time, like, you know, and we were on the back of a good PAL team, like, you know, at that time as well. So, like, you know,
They won 2 championships, 15 and 16.
yeah, and even then I was in with the hurlers, and you're sitting down to, like, you know, the dinner dance and all when you go back in with footballers, like, you know, like every time I was in with the hurlers, it was apart from the most recent one with John Mullally, but before that, the 3 times I was in previous with the hurlers, I was asked nearly every month, like, you know, when are you going back in with footballers?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it was nearly premeditated that, like, you know, you're not supposed to be in with the hurlers kind of thing, like, you know, you're not from the hurling part of the county, like, you know, or anything, like, you know. There was never the hurlers said that, it was always footballers.
You were never given a decision to make in 2017.
Not really, no.
You're disappointed, would you have gone with the hurlers if Bonner had said it?
Yeah.
You probably would have picked it over the football.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
It would have been something I would have went with, like, you know, because
That sequence of events now is crazier. I know, because I know we touched on it earlier about regrets and all that, right? But I mean, if that phone call comes, you're gone with the hurlers, you have a Christy Ring probably, you've got a Joe Mack, but you don't have the most iconic moment in Carlow GAA history, nearly you're one of them.
that's it, yeah. Like I said, no regrets. That's why, like, you can't have regrets.
And it's just crazy the way it all pans out. Like, it's you nearly have to buy into the what will be, it'll be thing at that particular point.
Well, that's it. Like, you know, at the end of the day, I was happy enough to be in a Carlow jersey, like, you know, representing my clubs, like, you know, kind of thing. I was happy enough to be in a jersey, like, you know, and like if it meant that I was in a football jersey, I was in a football jersey, and I give my best to that team, like, at the time, like, you know.
Was playing against Dublin a particular highlight? Like, given the fact that you'd been up there?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
That was they were a severely great GAA team, like, you know, at the time, like, you know, they were coming off
best team ever, sure.
You know, like, they were in the middle of their peak, like, you know, and I think we were, like, I always come back to say it, like, we're the only team that year that they didn't score a goal against. And, like, you know, as a defensive unit, I'm happy with that. Martin McMenamin for the full game was a bit tough now, but because usually he comes on for the last 15-20 minutes, super sub as they call them, like, you know, kind of thing. But
loads of pace.
Yeah, that's the thing, like, you know, he'd go out to the 45 and he'd just turn and he'd go, like, you know. But
what's the memories of that day? I mean, you were so assured in your performance until, like, Brendan got sent off. That's when the wheels come off the wagon, like.
Yeah, like, we were brought at that stage, at that time, like, you know, for those 2 years, we were always told, stay within, like, you know, a couple of points of your team, because what happens is these teams, the bigger teams like Dublin, Tyrone, all these teams, what they do is they want to be 15-20 points up on you. They don't want to be, they're not happy enough being 2 or 3 points up.
They're trying to kill you.
They're trying to kill you and
quick as they
attack. So when you're coming up to the last 10 minutes, you're 5 points down, they're still attacking, all out attack. You can hit them on a counter, and I remember there was one stage, there was a ball over the top, I think was it to Shane Clark, and he almost got to it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and listen, if Shane couldn't get to it, like no one would, because Shane is a pretty fast player, like, so it was the kind of thing that, like, if he had got to that ball, like, or the ball had been a bit lighter or something like that, like, it could have been a totally different story, because I think we were only 4 points down or something at the time, and he was one-on-one with the keeper, but the ball had just gone over his head too far. Now he was he was at 65 when he was running, so it was a good bit, but their keeper, I don't know if Cluxton was playing in goal that day, but their keeper was out to it pretty quick, like, then, like, and if it had been just 5 yards shorter, he would have got onto it, like.
Yeah, Choo was magnificent, wasn't he?
Was, after sharing 100 sheep that morning, apparently.
Yeah, the number goes up 100 every year, I think, or 50 every year. But yeah, what a character. It's like he's probably the player that I've played with the most over it, because he swapped a couple of times as well. Like, probably in around the same times as well.
Yeah.
Near enough, yeah.
Yeah, because the
first time out with the footballers maybe was 17 is the only thing. And maybe he did a lot more hurling.
He did a lot more hurling. He only played hurling up until that point, and then when we were going well, but like Poacher brought him in and all that, like, kind of thing. Like, so yeah, it was he's an exceptional hurler, like, and he's back in with the footballers now as well. I see that,
yeah.
Fair man for having a young lad. He'll know all about that this year.
Absolutely, yeah. Jenny Mack, unbelievable. And again, it's unfortunate that he's in that mould where you have to make a decision on what coach you go for. That you can't play both. I mean, he, no different to yourself, would have went down as one of our greatest dual stars. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, still will. I don't mean to be taken away, but I mean, for years upon years, you could be talking about, say, like yourself, in the same mould as Nevin and Brendan Hayden, because you were able to play it every year for 10 years. Not like, was it 1 year you played both, you were saying, in 2012. Like, that's unfortunate. Like, I'd still put you down as a great dual player in that regard. I don't mean to be taking that away from you. But to be able to consistently play for so long, it would have been lovely to see that facilitated. You know, look at.
Well, I did pose a question one day, because they had a question and answers one day on Sunday Sport or something like that. And Donal Cusick was over the GPA at the time. He was, I don't know what role he was in, but he was part of the committee in the GPA. Posed a question to him about dual players, and the response I got was sort of, listen, the demands that it takes for one of them, you can't concentrate on both, like, you know. And I knew from that answer, I was like, if the GPA aren't going to back you to be a dual player, if your own players' organisation isn't going to back a player to be dual player,
what have you?
You know, so, like, you know, so once that happened, and that sort of, it's the wrong message as well, because it means then, like, you know, even now playing county hurling, it's hard to play club football, like, you know, at times, because you're going back in, like, it can be harder to go the other way though, playing county football and going back club hurling, because hurling's a harder sport to. You have to
back into coach has to be in.
Yeah, exactly. You know yourself.
You can't.
You have to be hitting against the wall. You have to be doing something, like, you know. You have to have their hurl in the hand.
Keep the eye in.
Football, all you have to be is fit and strong, and you're good to go.
You can come back into it, like 100%. So getting promoted in 18 is massive, and this is before we come to the Kildare game, of course. But that's got to be a big moment, and like, you feel free to answer both of these, I guess, at the same time, and you can make reference to the Antrim game. But talk about that moment against Kildare. Like, go on, take it away.
Yeah, I suppose, like, you know, it's my mother's played it enough times now for me to word for word we can't redo it over and over. But it was just it's a blur, like, you know, at this stage, like, you know, kind of thing, like, you know.
So how did the move start, and how did you end up where it was? So
I suppose it's more so I seen when Choo got the ball. Like, you know, Choo was going out with the ball, like, you know, and he gave it to John Murphy, and there was no one else up there, like, you know. It was basically, like, you know, those two, like, you know. I was like, I'll just go for it, like, you know. I was the closest player, like, you know. We were always told, go for it, like, you know, kind of thing. If you're the furthest out player, everyone else is behind you defending. I think I heard, was it Ledger or something like that, shout go anyway, like, you know, kind of thing, like, you know. So, like, when you're told to go from behind, like, you know, by one of your own players, you don't think, you just, like, we were told at that time, if someone shouts go, you're told to go, you go. I just went, like, you know, and happened to get the ball, and I think one hop between the 45 and the small square, but yeah.
And the finish though, take nothing away. Like, that was a forwards finish. You kept it low.
Kept it low between the keeper's legs, outside of the boot. It was I was wearing white boots and everything. It really matched. It all kicked off for me that day.
Mad celebration as well.
I had to be celebrated. Sure, you don't score.
Of course.
As a full back, you don't score too much of them.
It was unbelievable. It was something I was going to touch on two aspects that of your game that do stand out is one you just mentioned is that hop, right? Now I'm always a firm believer, if you're on step 4 and you make the motion of starting to hop, you'll get to about 8 or 9 steps.
Oh yeah.
Again, the ball hits the ground.
Like if you look, I think there's a still picture of it, and the ball is here, like the edge of the ball is here, my hand is here. It's actually away from me. Like I was getting good at ball up and away from my hand nearly, it's up there.
Enough to get the bounce in there when you need it to without losing control. Yeah.
That's it, the ball is hanging there waiting, and your hand hasn't come down yet, and you're getting 3-4 steps while the hand is behind the ball,
and
then they're seeing he's playing the ball.
I don't think you ever got pulled on, did you? Really?
No,
not much anyway.
No, well, a couple of times. It depends how close the game is, and
different things.
But
the other one is now, and I've made references before in the podcast. You probably know what I'm going to say. The greatest engineer of a high tackle I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not accusing you of diving or anything, but it's like as if you know the contact is going to come, you arch yourself back a bit, and then Alfie used to do it in the hurling the whole time, still does at club level.
That's it,
Is that, I'm not going to ask, is it premeditated? Is it a bit of cuteness, or do you genuinely feel lads were trying to behead you every day you went out?
Maybe 1 in 10 they did, but no, I hate, I don't do it myself, see, lazy tackles. I hate the lazy hand in.
The arm across.
The arm across, the arm out, stupid tackle, kind of thing. Something that, you're not making any attempt to tackle me.
Play the ball, yeah.
You're just making an attempt to play me. So if you're going to play me, I'm going to
play it back and get a free
here. You're not making any attempt to play the ball. You're not making any attempt to, fairly tackle me, kind of thing, get the body across. You're just throwing your arm in, so... fair enough, it is a foul to throw the arm in and not,
you have to play the ball, of course.
So in regards to that, it's a bit of A and bit of B, bit of A and but the ingredients are there and I just put it together.
It's worked out pretty well for you, it's two things I just had to get at some stage, but seeing as you prompted it there with the Kildare game, I thought it was an opportune time. So there you go, that's the insight into it. Hope it's not too many referees watching this podcast.
So I'm almost out the gap anyway.
So when it comes to, I guess, in around that COVID time was bleak anyway, and 2019 was bleak for Carlow football. The Hurlers in 19 got some great games. I just can't remember which you were with in 19. Did you say the footballers?
COVID, I was with.
Before COVID now. So
before COVID.
19, the year the Hurlers got to the Leinster Championship after winning the John Mack.
No, I wasn't with
them.
Footballers. Still with footballers, yeah.
Any calls coming around that stage to go? No. You're disappointed about that, I can tell.
Yeah.
Because it's your preferred code, isn't it? Despite all the success.
The only thing is, I was, the last time I was, before John Mullally, I was in as a forward. So I've gone from being a minor full back to a wing forward. I was forward for a good few teams. The first one was I can't think of the manager's name.
Paul Flynn for the 21s. You played full forward against Dublin in the game anyway.
The senior manager though, Flynn.
Kevin Ryan.
Kevin Ryan. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was under him as a defender, a wing back. Because it was my first year senior club. I was wing back. I was marking. Was it Hickey? James Hickey. That was it.
Baptism of fire.
That was a baptism of fire, right? Yeah. First year senior, 17 years of age, and you're marking James Hickey in a senior semi-final, as well. But yeah, I remember being called in, to the county team that year, and I was wing back, and then for Pat English, I was midfield forward kind of thing, and then for John Lawlor, I was wing forward as well. And then to go in, be called in as a full back again, felt like I was going back to my roots,
I think you did alright out of my knee injury for the minors, because I started off wing/centre, and then when I got back for the Leinster B Championship, we were going out with the A again, I came back, and you got out into the wing, and I was stuck full back.
Yeah.
Fucker. That game against Kildare got away in us, actually. I didn't speak about that, but that was... We should have won that one. I
think against Westmeath as well. We played Westmeath as well.
That's right, up there. Yeah. You went over on to Conor Kenny was doing quite well in that Leinster B final, and you went over and quietened him from memory.
Yeah.
He was quite good in the first half. I think we left ourselves too much to do. Thankfully, Conor, we can't really take any blame for it ourselves, because I actually read back on that report not too long ago, and it seems that our forwards missed an awful lot of opportunities. I don't have much recollection of that, but I'm delighted on mature reflection to be informed that was the case.
Yeah.
We wouldn't take the blame anyway.
No. But the one thing I remember from that year was actually the way we trained. I it doesn't happen anymore, but like, you know, I don't know if you were on the buses that went
down to St. Mullins.
Yeah, like the buses would either start in Carlow Town and travelled all the way through the county, because if you imagine the hurling route is, apart from Michael, it's all on one road. Like,
that's right, yeah.
Like you have
R448, is it?
Yeah, that's it. You have Carlow Town, like up to Nave Breed, on to Bagenstown, on to Ballykillen, Boris, and then on to St. Mullins. So the only ones were the Michael boys would have to come across to either Bagenstown or Ballykillen or something like that. Like, you know, but I remember, like, yeah, and then every second week it would swap. It would go from St. Mullins down to Carlow Town, like,
back down, yeah.
So
it's the first time in my life, and I said, it didn't happen since chicken curry and spuds was the offering. The staple diet of St. Mullins.
That's it, yeah. Or soup and roll was sometimes as well, the offer, but
it didn't do them any harm. They won a few championships down there. But do you know what I remember about it as well? And it's definitely outdated now. People don't do it. The 200-metre squares. Do you remember them at Ken Archibald?
Oh yeah,
they were cruel.
Yeah,
absolutely cruel. And people say they're not really as significant when it comes to playing now, that coaches don't really use it. It's not mimicking running movement.
No,
just as well to move after them.
but like, not straight away.
No. but when it came to a game, like, you were so well conditioned. Like, I felt really well conditioned.
Oh yeah,
It was of its time, I guess, too.
That's the thing. Like, as these new techniques come out, like, as I was saying before, the game's gone younger, fitter. That's because, like, you know, coaches are becoming, like, you know, more educated, and they're starting to bring it into minor teams, under 16 teams. They're bringing it into college games and all that. Like, you know, like if you look at now, like, you know, back when I was under 16, it was basically having a bit of crack. Like, you might have a packet of crisps and a cadet coke or something like that after games. Now, like, under 14s, I remember I was taking the PAL minors, and there was under 16s in the gym and everything. Like, you know, now they're starting to do movement only, like, you know, everything. But at 14, they're starting to do, like, you know, getting their squat technique right rather than like with weights or anything like that. But that's the way it's gone at that level, like, you know. And like you said, like, you know, it's changed for underage, like, nowadays, like, you know.
Yeah, the whole thing is changing. It's mental. My own view, like, I'm not a recent player of a level that you've played at, and even at club level, nowhere near that. But, like, I mean, I don't know how lads do it. I really don't, and I really admire the fact that they do it. But yeah, it's definitely changing. You ended up back with the Hurlers. I'm not going to say largely or solely because of, well, maybe it was partly a miscommunication with the Carlow Offaly game in football. Was it to do with that? Yeah,
like, I remember that day. Like, that was probably one of my worst days in a Carlow jersey, is when, like, you know, you're told you're not, like, you know, as in you're told you're going to be marking a certain player.
McDonagh, was it?
Yeah, like, you know, McDonagh was down to start, and I was told at the start of the game, before, in the warm-up, like, you're told he's not going to start, don't worry, but you're here to mark him, because Shane Redmond actually done his hamstring in the warm-up, so Shane wasn't able to play either. Like, you know, myself and Shane were on the bench that day, and Shane did his hamstring in the warm-up, and the crew came over to tell me, like, you know, listen, you're going to mark McNamee. You're there to mark McNamee if he comes on, but he's not going to start. He's down to start, but he's not going to start. He hasn't started in the other games. They haven't started him. They brought him on. He started, and I think one of the first balls did was a punched high ball into the net. Like, and if you imagine if, like,
you wouldn't let that happen, you wouldn't have.
Like, but like if he had ran out, got it, turned, ran 30 yards in, and, like, you know, buried in the back of the net, be like, right, he better lad for pace, chances are might, like, you know, but a high ball in, I'm like,
well, you're one of the two fullbacks probably on the panel, like yourself and Redmond. I don't know who actually did start instead.
I think it was Shawnee Bambrick.
Right, okay, well, it wouldn't be fullback by trade.
the three fullbacks that day, I don't think played fullback for their club.
Yeah, it seems to be mad now to me.
Like, you know, so
you're obviously pretty pissed off about this whole thing, and
wasn't happy that day. All right, I was coming home from the game, like, you know, going, like, you know, you're like, why tell me that, and then, like, why make a statement like that to a player, and then not back? Because I even went to him, like, when the team was announced, I said, listen, McNamee starting, am I in? No, and you're like,
right.
What was the chat before the game about? Like, you know,
yeah.
Like,
you lose lads with that
lose interest with that, like, you know, and that's when I was like, I was on a trip for my birthday up to Belfast with my wife then in September. I was like, not going back with footballers, packing it in. That was when the retirement talk started, like, you know.
Yeah.
But Pat Murphy gave me a call when I was in Belfast from St Mullins, and I said, yeah, listen, I'll be happy enough to go back in. So
that was that then.
went in.
And like Mullally wielded the axe for a few years. Like it didn't just come right overnight. Like Mullally done.
No, but he's the kind of manager that puts a process in place. He's not like, for example, like if you look at certain managers, they want results from the senior team. That's it. They want results within a year or two, and that's it. Like they'll get the results for the year or two. Like if you look at Davy Fitzgerald is a big one. You imagine he gets results where he goes, but he'll get results for a year or two, and then what happens is players start to lose interest.
Tapers off, doesn't it?
Tapers off because he doesn't develop young lads. He builds in that team and closes off the team, and that's the team. Whereas
Mullally incorporated.
He's very good like that. Like he'll have an eye on young lads below and all that. And even in-house games, he'll be bringing under 20s along to it, and sort of saying, listen, we want to see these lads as well, He's not shy in bringing in a young lad, and saying, right, that young lad's better than you, put him on.
Plain and simple, and he just, and look, that's fair enough too, as the fella said. So is 2023 then, is it fair to skip on to that without glossing over? I think we're missing a whole lot in 21 and 22, only that process was kind of, building back up towards 23, and even at the start of 23 it wasn't exactly plain sailing. We were hearing things of maybe lads off the panel and returns delayed onto the panel, and then the whole thing comes together just at the right time, it seems, for the Joe McDonagh.
Yeah, it's like all the talks of lads, we knew all the talks were going on outside the team. We knew what was going on inside the team, because we were like I said, he's very good like that, where he'll keep a team informed of what his plans are, and he wants you to believe in him, and you do believe in him because you can sort of see why what he's doing, and he explains himself after, but lads were delayed coming back in because like I said to you, my body wasn't able to take it. Some lads do need that bit of break, and if they're I was swapping between the two, if a lad is doing that for 10 years only with the Hurlers, he's going to see that, and he's going to be like, right, I need to give this lad an extra 2 months off there, he's been going a long time, the club might have been successful, that whatever club lads were with, they might have been going well in the Leinster, that meant that, right, he's played until November, December anyway, let's give him 2 months off, he's not going to be too far off it when he comes back anyway.
Yeah. That particular year, I mean, it's probably unfair. Well, maybe it is. Maybe it's not actually unfair to go straight to the Offaly game. But there was an Offaly game before that, which had a lot of people talking. A bogey team perhaps sent down, and a lot of talk around that. And look, Offaly did wherever they saw fit at the time. But is it fair to say that kind of backfired, or is it kind of largely irrelevant? That kind of talk. And I'll couple it up. There was an awful lot of talk, and still is an awful lot of talk about Offaly. And it sounds like a jealousy thing. You probably would have heard me talk an awful lot about this last year. I got to be honest, from my own perspective, and I'd be interested to hear what it's like for you. I'd be particularly pissed off at that I suppose the amount of coverage and the manner in which Carlow are talked about in comparison to Offaly is not consistent. And it's because of Offaly having a bit of success when the TVs are in black and white, so to speak. Why is that the case? And is it something that grated on you at all?
When the coverage was, it was more so the overall coverage was poor from the national media kind of thing, because leading up to that game, everyone was saying, and Offaly are playing this weekend. They never, there was a couple of times when Joe McDonagh Offaly are in Joe McDonagh Cup this weekend, and who are they playing against, kind of thing, it was, we weren't showing any respect, and it was nearly like Offaly let you into the final kind of thing,
because it won leash. We'll dictate who we beat in the final.
But we were we're the only team that's unbeaten in that. We didn't lose to anyone. We drew with Kerry and Laois, but we didn't lose any games.
Yeah.
So in fairness, we deserved to be there. We kept the destiny in our own hands, the whole time. We never lost it. We were never relying on scores, score lines, because even going into the Offaly game, if Offaly had put out their full strength team, we still needed to win, if we had won, we got through. So we're still not on our own hands. And that's a big thing that was built into the team, was keep the destiny in your own hands. But back to your coverage thing, the jealousy thing, it's more so to do with everyone outside the team, like I don't think it's to do with Offaly in general, like you know themselves. It's just the hurling community is looking for more teams to be back in the big leagues, like you know, and instead of looking at one team, they need to look at like you know the division below them rather. If you can couple Offaly, Westmeath, Carlow, Antrim, and Laois in there, and say, right lads, we're going to develop ye into like you know a power, start bringing you on more and more, like you know. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's up to that new director of hurling, like you know, to try to do something there. But like if you imagine, like you know, there's teams slipping a bit, starting to slip down a bit, like you know, as well as Carlow are coming up. Great result against Waterford, fantastic result.
Magnificent,
like, you know. Now Waterford aren't what they used to be, but even at half capacity, like you know, they would have been going back a few years ago. They would have thinking, sure, Carlow will beat Carlow, like even if we beat them by a point, like you know. But like for the lads to go out and do it, like you know, on the day, like you know, was phenomenal, like you know, kind of thing.
I think Leo's stats were quite interesting. There was 11 Waterford guys that tasted championship action before.
Yeah.
And 8 starters only off the Carlow team that played against Kilkenny last year, the drew in championship. A few more come in off the line. It's amazing statistics when you look at it. So like that Waterford team, while some would say it was not a full strength Waterford team, well, it wasn't a full strength Carlow team either, for example.
It's still Waterford.
And it was also a very experienced Waterford team.
Yeah.
With very, very good players. Like one or two that hadn't played championship were serious players at Ballygunner, say for example. And yet there's always that asterisk there. People want to put an asterisk beside stuff like that the whole time. As in, well, there's Waterford for that. And Astro must have been a full Waterford team. It wasn't a full Carlow team either.
No, and that's the thing. Like, and even then, like you know, like both teams are like Carlow wouldn't be like you know like going by previous years. Carlow wouldn't be flying it, like you know. If you imagine now, Waterford have always been different, but like you know, I remember playing them in a challenge game, and the mentality at the time was that they won the league, Division 1 league, and we played them a week later. And well, you're probably like you know, talking full forward, you're probably still flat out, like you know, on the BRE from celebrating the league final. No, we didn't go out at all. Didn't even celebrate it. And we decided as a collective we're going to concentrate on championship. They didn't get out of Munster that year. And I was like imagine winning the Division 1 league. They hadn't won in All Ireland. They hadn't won anything, like you know. They'd won a league title, Division 1 league title, best team in the country at that time of the year, like if you imagine. Didn't celebrate it, like. And
so that's wrong too, though, isn't it?
Like imagine that.
They weren't going to be any worse off as it turned out by celebrating, and they weren't getting out of Munster anyway.
All I could have time thinking was like, my God, like imagine that's the like. What does that say about the league and the pre-season tournaments if teams are like, we're not even going to celebrate this league win, like you know, the league is whatever the league is, then we're concentrating championship. And it's like is there any point in pushing for the league to be so dominant, like in the calendar year? Like you know, if the GAA are talking about like a condensed year, like you know, it's very condensed, like managers and players and all that, like for certain teams, like the league doesn't seem to matter. Like the bigger teams don't care about the league. Division 1 don't care about the league because they're chasing an All Ireland.
Yeah.
So like you know, so maybe it's something like the league.
It is crazy. Like I can't think what the exact percentage is of players who are inter-county players. It's below 10 anyway, well below 10 I think. I can't remember. It could be even well below, it could be below 5. I don't have the exact figure. But yeah, when you look at it, like I mean, there's still such a hankering towards that county setup. I know it's a difficult one maybe for you to weigh in on, but like you've always tried to be with the club as much as possible also. Like the whole thing just seems a bit microwaved from a club point of view, and the club I find suffers an awful lot. Like say for example, unless you have any information to the contrary, I don't know if there's an exact date for the football leagues to start. I don't know what the hurling fixtures are, say for the minute. Leagues now we're talking about, not
club,
championship. Yeah.
Club, yeah.
I don't know, and I'm not trying to like hover anyone over the coals for that, but like I mean, there was a time when the league was so important, and like we're not paying any respect to it. And what is the reason for that? Well, is one of the reasons that we're holding off for county players to come back. If that's the case, does the county game again need to be looked at? I mean, like you look at the amount of games that you play with the county, it's fantastic, don't get me wrong. Championship now, we have round robins and all this. But if you think back, and I would never thought I'd be saying a back in my day thing or back in someone else's day, but when championships were actually knockout, it was seriously advantageous to the clubs.
Yeah.
And the thing was over quicker. Now, people would say you do all this training and you only get 1 or 2 games. But how about like all the other players in the 90% plus that only have a couple of games at the end of the year?
Yeah.
Like that, like for you this year, meaningful games, you're going to have very few of them in comparison to what you used to be having anyway. And that comes with the territory. Like, but
Yeah.
you could be having a lot more. Like if things were taken a bit more seriously and if it was looked at from, I don't know. Like I'm ranting here now. But are you happy with the setup now that you're going back to the club scene? Do you think it's set up for clubs to prosper?
No, in relation to like clubs are missing their best players for the league anyway. I remember coming back, we got knocked out of the hurling out of Joe McDonagh. One of my first years in with John Mullally, and Pal were in a league final, and I togged out for it. And county board official came over and told us he can't play. I was like, what do you mean? County hurling was finished, county football wasn't, and the league semi-final or final against Rogue, I couldn't play it because my county hurling.
Different code.
And I was like, no, he's a county player. I was like, but he's county hurling. No, can't play it. And I was like, so that's where, like I said to you, dual player, it affects, even being a county hurler affected my club football, kind of thing. So it became a sort of a thing is like, why bother? At some stage you're going to think, I'm putting in all this effort, and I'm trying to play as much games as I can, and you're limiting me, kind of thing. And fair enough, they're talking about, that, it's only fair, over the course of the thing, and all that, But, if that's the case, I'd always have a qualm about it, because I don't know, coming from a similar thing, where your club is, the hurling club, Nave Reid, they'd be in a similar situation to myself, where if we're playing intermediate next year, we're playing against lads, I remember marking Kieran Abbey, a county player, for against Michael intermediates. Now I appreciate he's a keeper, goalkeeping, sub-goalkeeper, but he was still a senior inter-county player that was on his second club team. And you have players that are being regraded, kind of thing in the club.
Yeah.
And it's similar to that, the unfairness, of it,
Yeah, I just think the whole thing is so heavily tilted towards inter-county, and I'm nothing against inter-county at all. I just think that you start with your club, you finish with your club. You wouldn't be a county player if you didn't have a club.
Yeah.
So, there has to be some sort of an acknowledgement of that. The CPA was set up a few years back. I think that's gone.
Yeah.
Club Player Association. It was well intentioned, and I don't think anything ever became of it. But I'd say they probably got disheartened and realised that it's probably worth it.
I posed a question when I was registering with them actually as well. I went to register as a dual player, and he said, no, you have to register twice. So even the Club Players Association didn't want dual players for some reason, because I was like, I'm 2 different clubs, I'm a dual player, and this that's very popular in a lot of if you even look at so you've Carltown, you have Nave Breed would be 2 different clubs, because if you play dual, if you look at there's lads that play for Michael and played for Kilbride. So in regards to that, it was never going to be a successful thing. If something like that was an air, because I even said there's no point in registering. I don't want to register one club or separate to the other. That seems a bit crazy, to be honest.
I'm going to get a quick fire round now, because I know we're flying along. How long have we gone there, Mr. Producer? 118. I was thinking I was in around that mark. At least we're consistent anyway. Consistently going on the end of the Titanic. But last year playing Leinster Championship games, what was that like for you then? You had a right tussle for wall for the full-back position, didn't you?
Yeah,
and then there was a couple of games you were full and he might win it at the corner, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
League and Championship, yeah.
Yeah, injuries last year sort of hampered a good bit, because I think I done my hamstring between club and county. I did it 5-6 times. So I think I did it 3 or 4 times for county. So the only championship match I started really was Wexford, because I was always injured. So that's the it was great battling for that position, but it was it was good fun playing with the likes of Paul Doyle and Dion as well there. The 2 boys are if you imagine if 3 of us at full fitness has a full back line, you wouldn't want the ball into the full forward line too often, I
described it as quite ignorant before. Big ignorant hoers in the full back line, all well able to hurl too. Yeah, absolutely. Good setup though. Like, I mean, it seemed a very happy setup, and like you met lots of friends on that particular team, but all of them, I think, down through the years.
Yeah. Like, like in fairness, you get on with the lads, like, and all that, like, like
plenty of abuse as well.
That's it. Yeah, plenty of stick, like, the other thing, but. Yeah, like it was good crack. Like, you always had, like, I was always the old-fashioned full-back. I was described that, I think, my second or third year into county. I was described as an old-fashioned full-back, and it sort of rang home with me that I was like, right, this is bear in the square kind of thing, like, But we had a good thing going there. Like, I was the guy that minded the square. Paul Doyle was able to go up the field a bit, maybe shoot, and Dion was able to sort of stick in the middle there, and so we sort of had our roles, and we were sort of good at them, like, A
hurling man brought you a football title in 22 on the club stuff. I actually went into that.
Yeah.
Paddo.
Yeah.
Was that the most unexpected county title?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like, if you imagine, like, his first adult football gig, like he said it himself, like that's his first adult football gig. Like, he had taken over. Because I was in with the county hurlers at the time. A few of them had played under 21 with him. Like, he was under 20 manager, the county hurlers, for a few of them, and the shock that they were like, I can't believe he got Paddo, like, like, what's the story, like, like he's a hurling man, like, and all this, like, and, like, but in fairness, he brought in like a coach with him there, like, Killian Roach, who's the leash,
coach Killian for you, yeah.
He's
half a year.
he was he was brought in as a coach, and he was
transformative.
Yeah, he was very good now. Like, the likes of Scobie and Stretch Rovers at the time, and they were great palmen. They pal at heart, like, like the famous Reeds, like, pal, like, kind of thing. They'd do anything for the club, like, and it meant taking, like, when no one else wanted us, they took the job, and like, they may not have been like the most technical minded in relation to, like, drills and all that, but Scobie would have been on county teams before and all that, like, he would have experience there. But bringing in Killian, Paddo kept Killian, like, so it was a bit of, like,
continuity,
like, and that helped. And his first year to do it as well.
Beating your nearest and dearest.
Yeah. That was
sweet.
That was something special, all right. Yeah, like, to be able to do it, like, so, like, it's like that, like, no one. Even in my own head, we played O'Loughlin in the quarter final. I was thinking, right, O'Loughlin will beat us, like, like, we're not going great. We lost the quarter final the previous year, like, O'Loughlin are going good. We're not too bad. We qualified for the quarter final, but, like, we were going all right. Bet O'Loughlin, we came up against Rathvilly, and I was like, surely Rathvilly, like, they're going well. Bet Rathvilly as well. And once I got to Tinryland, I was sort of thinking, right, I don't want to lose this.
Like, make sure you don't lose it.
Don't lose it. I wasn't even chasing a county medal at the time. I was just going, I just don't want to lose this game. Like,
Won it by, was it a point in the end? Point or two.
They got
a couple of goals on, didn't
they? They did, yeah. Like, even then we missed a goal opportunity. Like, we had a chance. Like, we were 2 points up, and we had a chance
to wrap it
up. And I was thinking, why didn't we pull it over the bar? Because they saved the kid down the pitch and scored a goal. But I had made a run at that stage, and I was out at the midfield. Like, I had given it off to, I think it was Conor Crowley and Darren Reid up the front. But, like, they got it and ball over my head, like, kind of thing, like, into the forward line, like, and it was just punched to the net. But yeah, we were lucky.
How did you get a free level? It was a difficult one, though.
Very difficult one, yeah. It was out the sideline, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd say that was heart and about stuff too.
It was kind of similar to the day up in Crow Park against Offaly in the Joe Mack. They got a sideline show in the last few seconds of ordinary time.
Yeah, they had an opportunity, yeah. Those sort of things, the elation after that.
Look just goes your way, like.
Yeah, you need a bit of it too. Seniors are here. The podcast that we did in Tinryland before that seemed to piss a few people off in Pal. I know it was referenced afterwards. I think J.O. might have said it to Chaz. He had said that there was a podcast over in Tinryland. Now, I don't think it was the fact that we had a podcast or that it was in Tinryland, but I don't know, like, maybe it was something Paddo and Grain seemed to use the us against the world thing very well that year, and like, we certainly weren't against you anyway.
No. But sure, like, even like I said to you, the previous year we lost in the quarter final to Rangers.
Yeah.
Like, and it was a bad loss as well. It wasn't even like a 1 or 2 point loss. It was a bad loss, and like, sure, that coupled with new manager coming in, losing a few players as well. Like, you know, we had lost a few players at that stage as well. Like, you know, like Chris Crowley and all had gone as well. And, like, you know, so like all the sort of ingredients were there to say Pal are rebuilding, like, you know, kind of thing. Now, every manager will use anything to get to try boost managers. Every manager will do it. Like, you know, once you get long enough in the tooth, every manager starts to sound the same as well. Like, you know, you notice the same things start to creep in. Like, everyone is like, they're not training harder than us. Everyone's not training harder than you. Like, you know, kind of thing. Like, you know, we're going to train harder than anyone else in this country. Like, you know, they're being told the same by their manager. They're being told the same. So eventually, like, you know, I think, like, you know, the sort of, when you come to my end of the career, you're sort of going, here we go again, another speech.
Man,
like, you know,
just go out there and train and just, I'll do my thing, anyway, kind of a thing. I got you.
But so some players, they latch onto it and that's it. Like, you know, other players, like, I was never one for taking it too seriously, like, you know, kind of thing. Like, you know, and it's like, you know, you're telling, like, the next team you coach, you're going to tell them the exact same. You're going to train them harder than anyone else, like, you know, kind of thing, like, you know.
I suppose we better go on to the quick fire round, unless there's anything I've kind of skipped. You're happy enough so far?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, we'll start with most memorable game.
Probably the Offaly game.
Crow Park. Sweet as a nut.
Yeah.
Good celebrations for a few days after.
That's it, yeah. Like, you know.
Your son in Crow Park, or was he in Crow Park?
No,
probably a bit too young.
Bit too young at that stage, like, you know. But
going back to him though afterwards.
Oh yeah. Like, I remember, like, I'm not one for drinking, but, like, you know, the lads were back into the reception and all that. Like, I think it was home by 11 o'clock doing the night feed.
Jeepers. I'm happy enough to do so.
Yeah.
That's what you wanted to celebrate.
I was sitting there, like, you know, after doing what I'd done in Crow Park, sitting there watching him sleep away, drinking a bottle, and you're like, nowhere I'd rather be right now.
It's the dream. That's class, man. That is class. You were having a laugh at this one. The best score you ever got?
I suppose, I can't pinpoint exactly how much I got, but there's only one really that stands out, I suppose.
Yeah, Kildare,
that's the one,
Iconic stuff. So the best player that you played with in both codes for the county? We'll go hurling first.
I suppose hurling, like, when I was thinking about this question,
it's a difficult one.
It's a difficult one because, like, you know, like, I've played with lads that couldn't tackle worth a shite, but, like, you know, could put a point over the bar from the end line nearly, like, you know, kind of thing. So, like, I suppose, listen, like, when it comes to it, like, you know, one of the best players to play, I suppose, like, James Doyle is probably one of the all-rounders, like, you know, kind of thing. Like, you know, he has athleticism, pace, strike of a ball, he can tackle as well. Like, you know, he's probably the best all-rounder, like, you know.
James Doyle. Football then?
Football, hard one to answer, but I'd say, like, if he'd stayed playing, like, and all that, like, you know, peak Brendan Murphy was probably one of the best footballers.
Yeah.
Like, you know, peak Brendan Murphy was phenomenal. Like, you know, he had catch, he had everything. Like, you know, he had fitness. Like, it's only when you look back at games now, he was trying to take ball off me from running behind me, and then all of a sudden he's up trying to take a shot, like, between the 45-21 kind of thing, and you're like, the level of fitness that man must have had, like, you know, to do that, like, you know.
Class act. So the best player you played against him in both codes and inter-county hurling football?
Football, I'd say it'd probably be McManaman that year, because he was so hard to, like, he was constantly moving. He was just so hard to get a handle on. Like, you know, most lads, when you marked them, like, you know, like against Kildare, I was marking Daniel Flynn. Like, he didn't want to know about it, like, you know, kind of thing. Once you stayed on him within 2 yards of him, you just didn't want to know about it. Like,
McManus was obviously someone you marked as well.
McManus as well, but similar enough. Like, you know, they didn't want to give the ball to him when there's a lad within 2 yards of him, like, you know, kind of thing. And even then, all you had to do was keep hands on, like, you know, and same thing. So that's why, like, you know, I always brought that to it. It was just so hard to get a hand on McManaman because he was constantly moving at pace.
Quick, like, yeah. So hurling then, the best hurler at county level you played against?
That's a difficult one, alright, because, like, you know, I suppose when I was playing against Kilkenny in a it was a Walsh Cup game, we played against Kilkenny. I played against Blanchfield, Liam Blanchfield up front, and he was a big, strong unit. Like, he was someone that, like, you know, same thing, constant pace, like, constant moving around. He was probably difficult enough to mark that day. Like, you know, that was probably one of the hardest games. That or Pickymar,
Yeah.
Like against Laois, like one day, like, you know, he was phenomenally hard to mark as well. He was constantly moving around, like, you know, and he could strike a ball over from everywhere. So I'd say, like, you know, when it comes to competitive games, I'd say Picky Maher would have been one that would have been tough to mark, like, you know, the toughest to mark that day.
Right, we'll pencil it in. The best day in a Carlow jersey. It doesn't have to be hurling or football.
I suppose the best day is that Offaly game, the most memorable game. Not
Tough between that and Kildare though in the football, it has to be.
Yeah, like the Kildare game, like, you know, like I'll always have the video. You'll always have the video. Thanks to social media, you'll always have it, like, you know. But like, there's nothing beats like the fact that, like, you know, that like you can say you were part of a championship winning team. Like, you know, and that's why, like, you know, that, like I said, it was my best day. Like, you know, I have a picture of it up at home. Like I said, like, I have a video on the phone. The young lad, like, you know, he's up and thing. He slaps it and goes "Dada," and
it's class.
And you're like, like I have that video as well. That's what it's all about, like, you know.
Your worst day in a Carlow jersey?
Probably, I don't think we mentioned it at all, but the third loss to Laois in the year.
Yes.
The Leinster semi-final up in Crow Park, and I think I was on the bench for it that day as well, because I went away for a couple of days before the game, and
that didn't go down well.
Didn't go down well, and I was benched, and, like, you know.
Did you understand the decision?
Yes and no. Yes, at the time I was like, I had told him well in advance that this was happening.
Yeah.
And I think the expectation was you should be cancelling that trip. It was a midweek trip, so I was only missing Tuesday and Thursday training. And even then I was missing Tuesday and Thursday, not straight away before the game, the one before that. Like.
Okay.
And it was kind of thing, it was like, you know, that's the reason was given. And I was like, when the commitment level is there, like, and then all of a sudden I go away for 2 days, 3 days, like, and you're like, you're benched because of that, like, you know, there's lads that are playing shite in the team and you're still keeping them on, like, you know, and I'm being benched, like, you know, and I was sitting on the bench. I don't think I sat up off the bench. The lads were going doing their warm-ups. I didn't sit off the bench once. I was never called either.
Yeah.
So I didn't sit up off the bench that one day. I found out that day Ricardo seats are actually comfortable on the bench in Crow Park.
He didn't know that probably. I know it was fairly warm that day anyway.
It was.
But yeah, it was a regret that there wasn't a result got in those games.
No, that's the thing.
I had to measure them, like that day was probably, like, what was the one out of three that, probably the first one was probably the most winnable one, was it? Dr. Cullen.
Yeah, most winnable, yeah. I think we were winning that the day, like, you know, that.
168 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, like, whereas the third day you're thinking, right, we surely have something here, like, you know, either change something or make something better, or
they adapted better, didn't they?
You know, like, you know, but nothing changed and the same thing happened.
Yeah. Just on the holiday thing, did you get dropped for Pal last year? For the, not for the county final, but at some stage for taking a few days as well, just thinking of.
No, last year I was nursing an injury.
Right, okay, yeah.
So
there was talk at some stage that you went for a few days away and that they were going dropping you or something. I don't know.
Sure. Like,
the GAA is mad too, isn't it?
I go on holidays. Yeah. It doesn't matter, because I was always playing. Like, last year we finished up Burn Rangers. We played Burn Rangers in the club in November, I think it was, October, November.
Yeah.
And like, the year just gone, like, and I was training since November. So when do you get to go on holidays? Like,
sure, that's it. You're training the whole year round, playing the whole year round.
No matter when I went on holidays,
stage,
no matter when I went on holidays, I was going to disappoint someone, whether it was county, club football or club hurling. I was always going to be gone during something. So I was like, in the last few years, I've been like, right, I'm booking holidays and I'm going when I'm going, like, you know. So, like, you know, so yeah.
Well, sure, if you didn't go on holidays, you'd be divorced.
You know, I was always a winter. Before I met Grace, I was always a winter holiday person. My family, like, you know, we went on skiing trips because you could go December, January.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, but then once I met her, like, I didn't go on any sunshine holidays until I met her. She changed my life.
You know. Could we see you back in a Carlow jersey?
Carlow jersey? Probably not. No,
okay.
That's something, like, you know, 33 years of age when you hang up the boots. Like, you know, chances are, like, you know, the body will slow down then, like, you know, and it's just the effort level to try to get back to that there could take you 2-3 years, like, to try to get back.
You'll clip away at the club stuff for a few years?
Yeah, like, you know, like, you naturally, like, you know, it's the progression, like, you know, you finish up playing senior county. Now, whether I play senior football, I don't know, but we'll see. But,
you'll
like,
tip away at the hurling, yeah.
Tip away at the hurling, I'll play, like, you know, I'll play a bit of football, alright, like, you know, but like I said, the demands are gone so high in the club that, like, you know, you're playing against lads that are young lads that are looking to push out to get onto a county, or should be at least, that like, you know, it's become a sort of an environment that means that, like, you know, once you're retiring from one, you nearly should be retiring from the other.
Gotcha, yeah. So just before we finish up then, any funny stories at all? Did you get time to think about anything that's a standout?
No, I suppose not. No funny stories.
You're being sound to your teammates here.
Well, I suppose there's one, like, actually Sean Murphy's back on the team. But I remember when we were up in a training, weekend up in Johnstown Estate, and Chris Crowley and Choo Choo were together in the room, and we were. It was about 3 weeks from the championship game, so we were like, right, the lads let us have a few drinks on the Saturday night, like, you know, kind of thing. So we were like, you know, listen, like, at the end of the day, it's an amateur sport. You should be allowed to enjoy yourself as well. So we had a few drinks, like, you know, we sort of said to ourselves, 2 or 3 drinks, back to bed, and we did, like, you know. But Antrim were staying there the same night, and we were going to play them on Sunday morning. And Choo Choo and Chris were both down to start, and ball was about to be thrown in. Jerseys were all handed out. All of a sudden, we noticed Choo Choo and Chris had slept in, and they had jumped out of their bedroom window apparently in the houses, like, you know, to try and make it as quick as they could, like, you know, kind of thing, like, you know. But yeah, that sort of thing, like, you know, it didn't happen too often, but it was funny when it happened. Now, manager fairly at them, but
I would have thought so.
But it was funny, like, you know, kind of thing, like, you know.
And where did the nickname Horse come from? Something
to be honest, it's more so that it was only when I was playing minor football that happened, like, for Pal, like, you know, that, like, you know, maybe Horse, Conor, 2 syllables, like, you know, it was easier to shout Horse, like, you know, and as they said, like, you know, when you're a big lad galloping up the field, like, you know, yeah, you resemble it, like, you know.
Yeah. Well, listen, I tell you, we've covered a multitude of ground there, and we took an age to get set up. We had a few tech difficulties, but we brought it back to basics in the end. I think you've given sterling, and I don't think it, I know that you've given sterling service to Carlow for, like, such a long time. It was a pleasure to watch you in the flesh, hurling or football, and club stuff as well, and looking forward to seeing you in action over the next couple of years. I hope we've done your career some bit of justice here on the pod anyway, but it was a pleasure to sit down beside you, and all the best going forward. Thanks a million for chatting to us, Conor. All right.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks very much.